All right, welcome back to On Texas Football, special live edition of On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Jerry Hamilton and Rod Babers. Got a commitment to talk about, an offensive lineman coming to Texas from the transfer portal. Got an upcoming visit from an offensive lineman, and the NFL draft deadline has come and gone. We'll touch on those things. Jerry, let's not waste any time and get right into it. Thanks for everybody. We've got a lot of people jumping in. We will take your questions. Super chats jump to the front of the line as always. Jerry, Jonte Newman, was true freshman this past season at Texas A&M, played 7 snaps. You saw him in high school. Your take on the newest Longhorn?
Yeah, I saw him in high school at Bridgeland High. He played left tackle. Ryan Foji played right tackle, the Oklahoma freshman. Texas offered both of those guys. Texas really liked Jonte Newman. He shut it down and committed to A&M pretty early. Texas offered him in 2023. He committed in, I think, mid-April to Texas A&M. Never backed off it, signed with the Aggies. He's a kid that's originally from the Jackson, Mississippi area, I believe. I know he's from Mississippi. I'm trying to think if I'm correct on that, but I think he's from the Jackson, Mississippi area. Father played Division I basketball, if I'm remembering talking to him correctly. I think that's correct, or D1 football, one of the two in Mississippi. But a kid that moved to Bridgeland before his junior season. And he is a guy that is an upside guy. Texas is taking him, I think, as kind of replacement to Nick Brooks, a guy that they can develop for a year because he is very talented and see what happens with his development. He was about 275 when I saw him his junior year. I think he ended up closer to 290, 295. His senior year at Bridgeland, I think they lost to Duncanville in the playoffs. He had a really good season. Then he got up to about 325, 330 during that redshirt freshman year at Texas A&M. A guy that has an 81, 82-inch wingspan, has some natural playing strength to him. Obviously not seeing him since high school. He was like a lot of young linemen. Here's some tape. You can see it. He's got some physicality, some pop on contact, but he played really high. And plays like this, he played really high. So obviously he's been coached up for a year. His techniques improved. Probably his leverage ability to leverage has improved. Where he was really good was he had pretty good feet on plays like that. He showed some agility, some lateral agility, the ability to get out of his stance and move quickly. But I'm guessing he doesn't play as high as he did in high school. But a guy that was a 4-star prospect that a lot of schools liked, A&M, LSU, Texas, you name it. We're all on Jonte Newman. But he is a Texas Longhorn, and I think this is a depth piece at tackle with Nick Brooks moving on.
Rod, you agree with Jerry's assessment there?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Longhorn fans now, at least all the conversation is about the frontline starters that you're getting in the portal, and those are the guys who are going to transform your roster. But you're losing so much depth. Yes. In terms of departures via the portal as well, it would make sense that also you're addressing the depth issues that you have in the portal. The reality is, you hope you can keep these guys around long enough to develop them, but at least you can bring in a guy that has a really high ceiling, that does have a year of college development and nutrition, being in a high level program. I know it's the Aggies, but still that's a high level program, and being in that program. So hopefully he's advanced enough where he can come in and compete to be able to help you as Jerry put, like a depth piece, or highest ceiling and the highest expectations. Maybe he can come in and actually try to compete to get into the rotation of guys for you. Who knows? Because he's a second-year guy, but didn't play a lot of football this year, so that does kind of indicate or lead you to believe they're just going to put him in as a depth piece. And I like Jerry's thought that it may just be a direct response to losing Nick Brooks. Like, hey, just go get a guy right now.
Yeah, thank you, Rod. Jerry, it's interesting. We talk about depth, and you lose a guy like Nick Brooks, and you're okay, where are your developmental depth pieces going to come from? Maybe this is the trend of the portal now. Somebody else's developmental depth pieces are now your developmental depth pieces. I don't know if this is the trend or if this is just kind of a one-off, but at least Texas has a multi-year guy that they're going to get in the program and see what they can do with him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I think this is where we talked about this, Rod, on the state of the program. Texas has 11 scholarship offensive linemen on campus right now. 12 will be Nicholas Robertson, but he's not a midterm enrollee. So the depth, keeping that depth is I think, going to be the toughest thing in the portal on the offensive line. It's going to be the toughest position in this modern day portal to retain your developmental players, because those other P4 teams are going to come in and try to snatch up your lower level P4s, going to kind of try to come in and snatch up your guys that have a couple of years development that aren't starters yet. You do the work for them, and then they go start for a P4. Now some schools do the work for you, and you go get the high end guys as well. But I think that's really, it's going to be tough depth wise on the offensive line more than any other position in the portal. Jonte Newman does give you a guy that has practiced against high level players. I mean, I practiced against the Cassius Howells of the world every day, right? At A&M, he practiced against and developed against a number of future NFL draft picks for the Aggies. So he's a guy that there's not a learning curve like a freshman offensive lineman there. So he absolutely can provide the depth you need. What does it mean? As people ask about Jordan Seaton, this has nothing to do with Texas' pursuit of a Jordan Seaton when he officially goes in the portal. These are two totally different things.
Yeah, Rod, we got a question here from Loda Bread. Said, is this depth, or does he actually have a chance to come in and compete somewhere? I would be lying if I told you I knew what the path to the field is for Jonte Newman right now. I mean, he played 7 snaps this season, all of them against Samford late in the year. But Rod, you have to find depth at this point wherever you can find it, potential depth. And let's be honest, in a normal season, when you don't have the portal and you don't have guys leaving, man, if you're getting down to like your 9th, 10th offensive lineman, you're probably up the creek without a paddle anyways. So, not all of these guys are going to fit the mold of, hey, he's a walk-in starter and a guy that's going to give you 450, 500 plus snaps. Some of these guys you're pretty much taking a flyer on.
Yeah, and I don't want to be insensitive, but you do need bodies at certain positions, right? Just to get through practices, just to get through spring ball, so that you can actually go out there and install the basic foundation of the offense. Still need bodies, right? Even though they lightening up spring practices and lightening up all those things. So I think just bringing it, there's no guarantee this guy's going to be on your roster after next season. That's the new reality of college football that we live in. I think the hope is that they'll bring him in and that he will be closer to, obviously reaching his upside as a player, and that they think he can not only be a depth piece, which he is, but be somebody that, oh man, maybe he can actually be a guy that can rotate in some of those games where either you're up big in games, you have a lead, and maybe in some of those early non-conference games against some of your inferior opponents, I guess is the best way to put it. But I'm with you. Right now, a guy who had, would you say, 7 snaps all of last season, that for Texas rebuilding their O-line, this is not part of the main foundation that they're rebuilding the O-line with. I think this is more of an insurance policy just to make sure they have enough numbers at the position, like to be able to function as an offense. Because honestly, we start looking at, you want to be 3 deep at most of these positions on the O-line, and you legitimately can't pull that off right now. It's hard to numbers rise for you to pull that off.
Jerry got a question from Stanford Horn. Said, does this guy feel like a replacement for Max Wright and the failure to add tackles with upside in the 2026 class?
Potentially, or Nick Brooks, who just went in the portal. Potentially, because Texas had a 3-man high school class. So Stanford Horn, it's not a bad question. I can see where you're going with it, because you, instead of another high school offensive tackle, you get a guy with 1-year college experience into his development, and you see, if he does a good job in that continued development at Texas this season, then he can fight. He can potentially fight for a job. So I don't think that's a bad thought, Stanford Horn. I'd say maybe even a combination of that and Nick Brooks. We had been told that Texas was going to take a developmental tackle. It wasn't going to be one of the frontline guys that everybody's always asking about, but they still were going to take a developmental tackle. So it's not a bad thought, Stanford Horn.
Yeah, Rod, a guy like Jonte Newman, let's say, one scenario for him could be maybe he's, your number 3 tackle behind Trevor Guzby and Brandon Baker. Maybe that's the best case scenario for him in 26, is he fills that role as the 3rd tackle that Nick Brooks probably was going to fulfill.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. If a guy you bring in is able to give you that kind of return on investment, if he ends up earning that kind of trust
Yeah.
And that means spring ball is going to be big for these guys. Now, I don't know exactly what spring ball is going to be and how. I don't know if I doubt there's a spring game and all that kind of stuff, but still, in terms of some of these new pieces you're bringing in who you don't know very well, you obviously, Jerry, point out, I'm sure you have your recruiting report on the young man. There's been obviously a year removed from that, and your hope is that he took a huge step forward in that time span, and that when you come in, that hey, all right, now he's in our system. We see him go up against he's going to be going up against some really good edge defenders. All right, so you'll be able to test him out pretty quickly and be able to tell in practice, oh, can this guy hold up? Because you got some of the best edge defenders, I think, out there as well. So I think for Texas, that's the best case scenario if he could be your third tackle.
And Rod, depending on what happens in the portal here at the end, we talk about Jordan Coleman, because this could be a sign that he might work at guard too in this week. He is a road grader. He is a big, strong kid that Texas really liked during the redshirt year. It could signal something else moving forward heading into spring football. Jackson Christian, who was a backup guard, he is now moved into center, has worked at center. Devin Coleman, I think, has worked at some center too, may just be more of a guard. So it could signal a couple of things here. One that we haven't hit on yet. So we'll have to see where Jordan Coleman starts off the spring, because he may be that inside powerful guy to compete at guard as well.
Yeah, Jerry, Joseph Patterson asked, what do you guys think about the OT from Jackson State coming on a visit? Mason Barton, his representation, been telling people he'll be at Texas tomorrow for a visit when the dead period lifts. Jerry, he played left tackle at Jackson State, over almost 1,000 snaps in 2 seasons, played 673 snaps this year. Don't know exactly how Texas sees him at this point, but I mean, again, you're bringing in a guy, Jerry, maybe he competes for your number 3 tackle spot if you get him. I think some of these guys, it just remains to be seen until they get to campus and talk to the staff and we start to get some intel. Can't really say for sure what the plan is.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, if ideal world, I think Texas would like to have a right tackle, and then they kick Baker in the guard. So I think that is an ideal scenario. Obviously, if Jordan Seaton officially is in the portal, then he obviously is your number 1 target. There is no doubt about that. But you also can't get caught holding the bag. You got to bring some other guys in, and that's a big part of this as well. Somebody's asking about the right guard from Maryland that just went in, really solid player. Mm-hmm. Haven't heard anything visit wise on him at this point. He signed with Georgia out of high school. Really has been really good in pass pro and major college football in the Big Ten. So we'll see if there's any movement there.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking in the chat. At last check, Jordan Seaton not yet in the portal.
He wouldn't go in, I think, until 5:30 or 6 officially. I think that'd be about your 24-hour mark from what we hear. But we'll see. It could be a little earlier, could be a little later.
And then Boulder, they are on Mountain Time, so maybe
that's a good point.
Message, so a little delayed time, so we'll see. Rod, I'm just thinking out loud here with Trevor Guzby coming back, Brandon Baker coming back, and Connor Robertson coming back. I would think it's probably maybe a little bit easier for a newcomer at guard to step in and play, because you do have some experienced pieces on either side of you if you're a guard coming to Texas.
Yeah, you're anchored pretty well with the experience. And I think even for Texas O-line, right, this reconstruction of the O-line should be, to me, for Texas, easier. And I'm going to say easy, but easier, because you do have your tackles. Worst case scenario, if you don't end up getting another tackle, like Jerry said, to bump Baker in, which also is a way of trying to get your best 5 on the field. So I think that Texas could just focus on. I would like also to make sure they got another contingency plan at center behind Connor Robertson. I think that's important. I don't know what that is. Jerry just talked about some of the young guys, but I think that's important. I think it's always important to make sure you got multiple guys that you think can play center, just because, knock on wood, injury or anything else. So I think and getting somebody that's cross-trained to play left and right tackle, because apparently is that just easy to do? I would love to kind of talk to Tony Hills about this and Find out how easy that is to do. There's a lot of conversation about that now. Guys who played a lot of left tackle, it's like, oh no, he can play right tackle. And it's like, it's an assumption.
It is because
athletic guys can do it, but I've talked to some guys, and I think it's supposed to be really tough to do.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Kelvin Banks at the Under Armour game in high school. He's always been a left tackle. And they said, hey, we need somebody to volunteer to play right tackle. The starting right tackle that they originally had in the game got injured. And nobody raised their hand. So, of course, Kelvin Banks, being who he is, raised his hand. Said, I'll do it. And it was a struggle for the first 2 practices for him. Like a real struggle. Because it's right eye. It's right eye, outside eye versus left eye. Your set is totally different. Your footwork is totally different. Your punch hand is different. And if you've never done it before, it takes a while to get used to, number one. And then I've heard stories of some guys that absolutely just can't do it.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they lose their reactive quickness. They lose their reaction on the right. If they've always been a left or working to the right, or always been a right working to the left. I've heard stories about guys that, hey man, it just didn't work out. This guy couldn't do it. He just he played the other tackle his whole life. So then to move him back. But for a guy as talented as Kelvin Banks, to tell you how difficult it is, man, it was a slow struggle for the first 2 practices.
Yeah.
Jerry, I think that's why I was so high on Trevor Guzby going into 25, because you look at his 2024, those 2 games he played at the end of the regular season, he comes in for Kelvin Banks at left tackle in a pinch early in that A&M game and plays pretty much the whole game at left tackle. And then he ends up playing, part of the SEC championship game, and he plays when Cam Williams got hurt against Clemson. He plays a pretty good chunk of that playoff game against Clemson at right tackle, and then also in the Peach Bowl against Arizona State. So, it's not easy for some guys to do, but Guzby at least has done it. So that, to me, I mean, look, if you're an NFL team and you've got a lefty quarterback, you can draft him saying, all right, we can draft him. He is a left tackle. We can plug him in a right tackle, which would be the premium spot for us. So I don't know. That's just me thinking out loud why I like Guzby so much.
Yeah, he's a freak.
Jerry, I do want to get to this question. Matt asked this question. He says, how will this transfer portal affect next year's high school recruiting class? And it's worth asking, Jerry, because they've got a junior day coming up on Saturday, and the 27 class, it's another really good year for offensive linemen in the state.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, we have a list going on ontexasfootball.com of the big names or the key names that are scheduled to attend. We'll be adding to that here in the next couple of days as more of those we either get word back from the kids or they announce they're coming in. So we have a number of those top guys that are listed are coming in. Brian Swanson, the offensive tackle from South Oak Cliff, Ishmael Kamara, the offensive tackle at Gilmer, Peyton Miller, the center at Anna. I mean, you can go down that list, and it's on ontexasfootball.com. But in terms of numbers of a high school class, I think it's going to be extremely interesting. And I'm not sure a Texas staff knows for sure right now. I think they're kind of working through all of this because this one-time portal is different. Even though you have ideas of what it's going to look like, how's it going? It's different from how you thought it was going to go, right? So I think the common thought is, okay, well, Texas, some of the power schools won't sign as many high school recruits. And I do think that will happen. But is it going to be 2 less? Is it going to be 5 less? Is it going to be 8 less? I think that's to be determined. But I think the one thing I'm going to be looking for is the junior day smaller numbers in terms of the junior class, 27 class, than versus past couple of years. That'll be telling. And then when you get into official visits, Texas has been using 52, 55, 56 official visits, and right in that area code. Year to year dependent, maybe 51 year, 52, and then 53, right? Is it lower? Does that number by June, as they work through all this, does that number more like 40? Well, if they bring in 10, 12 less visitors, obviously that class is going to be at least 5 or 6 less come December, because you're not going to bring in 40 official visitors thinking about 23, 25 signing spots. It's not going to happen.
No doubt. Rod, the NFL draft early entry deadline was today. The teams in the CFP, they get an extension on that. But for everybody else, the deadline was today. We kind of knew that it was looking good for Ryan Wingo. Ryan Wingo's not an NFL guy, but at least for Hero Canoe, we'd heard that he was planning on coming back. He makes it official today. Where I was going with the Ryan Wingo thing was Ryan Wingo. We'd been hearing that he was getting close to getting his deal for 2026 finalized. That has been finalized. He's good and locked and ready to go. Rod, your thoughts on Ryan Wingo getting locked up and Hero Canoe making it official that he's coming back for one more year?
For Ryan Wingo, I'm really happy for Ryan Wingo. I did hear he's a big part. Jerry was talking about a big part of the Cam Coleman recruitment. And he's getting, his obviously just rewards as well because finishing as an all SEC caliber player this season. But we kind of watched Ryan Wingo grow up too. We talk about Arch growing up. We watched Ryan Wingo grow up a little bit too. And I'm happy he's in a room with Cam Coleman, a guy who is in most projections considered a first round caliber player, period, overall, just with his raw material and raw skill set. I think that's going to be on full display in Sark's offense. But I remember being in a room with guys like that. Like the Matthew Golden thing is different because Matthew Golden came in and really kind of transformed himself into that value of being a first round pick, right? He had that tremendous into the season, and I think probably picked up more increased his draft stock more than any player in college football during that time span, and really surprised everyone by becoming a first round pick. Like everybody knew he was an NFL player, first round pick. That was obviously, I think, surprising, and ran the 4.2 40. Ryan Wingo was in that wide receiving room too. But this is a little different when you bring in a guy who is already considered by all projections to be a guy already considered a first round caliber player. Like he ain't working into that position. Just everybody looking at his raw tools and his skill set saying, okay, that guy's a first round pick. And if you're Ryan Wingo, you can use this as a great motivation for you because, you can compete with him daily. And the goal is in that room, even though you guys are teammates, to beat him at everything. Everything. Like that. And it's beautiful to have that. I remember being like that with Quentin Jamron. I remember Nathan Vasher being like that with me. Like, you know what I mean? Following me around from drill to drill. Like, damn, he's trying to do it better than me. I can tell. You know what I mean? Like that was his goal. Like, and that should be the goal, right? To outwork that guy. The guy's an NFL player. All right, I'm going to outwork him. He's supposed to be a first round pick. All right. And you get to go against that, obviously, on the other side. So that's what iron sharpens iron. But, in the same room, there's a brotherhood. But the foundation of the brotherhood is competition against each other. Always trying to outdo one another and outplay one another, outcompete with one another. And I'm happy for him now that he's got that in that room, that, he knows exactly what the standard is. Go beat it. Go beat it. Mm-hmm. And go be better than that guy. And even if you don't reach that, if you do, great. But it'll push your game to the next level. And trying to be better than Quinn Jammer, I wasn't. But trying to reach that standard, it pushed me to be a great player. And then having a guy like Nathan Bash right behind me, pushing me, also made me a great player in that room. So I'm glad that wide receiver room is having that kind of time. Jermaine Bishop is going to be probably a young guy behind him that they're going to be looking behind him. Going, man, this young buck is making a lot of plays out here. Yeah. My game up. And that's
the first time he makes 3 people miss on a practice field, the chatter starts.
Yes, exactly, right. And then it's this competition outdo one another to make more plays than one another, and it does it. To me, it makes the brotherhood even tighter because you guys realize like, oh no, these guys are making me better. We're all making each other better. So that's why I'm happy for Ryan Wingo. It made me think about my time being in the room with a guy. Everybody was like, oh, that's top 10 pick. That guy's the best of the best. I'm like, okay, then I know what to do. I just got to beat him in everything he does, and that will make me a better player. And I think Ryan Wingo's got that advantage. Hero Canoe, I think Texas can continue their streak of having multiple D tackles drafted. All right, in the NFL draft, 3 straight years now? Texas had multiple D tackles drafted. Guys, I believe that's the longest streak of anybody in college football. I don't think anybody's got that kind of streak going when you've had multiple D tackles drafted. Currently in 3 straight drafts. I mean, that's really impressive. So I'm hoping that, that'll be the case for these guys that, Hero Canoe and Alex January, isn't he? You know? I don't know
Rod
if
Watson.
Rod Watson. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm hoping that
exactly.
They'll push each other and kind of that they take pride in that too. They should. That's really impressive.
On the topic of D-line edge, we do still think there's a good chance that Caleb Herring visits the Tennessee transfer edge, but it's gone back and forth a little bit. So he's actually got to get on that plane and show up.
Jerry, I'll say this as we close, and I'll ask you this: as Texas looks to add guys in the portal, and we'll see what happens with Jonte Newman down the road. Again, only played 7 snaps this past season in his 1 season at Texas A&M. But I would just caution everybody: hey, if it's not a big name guy, don't just discard them, because I'll go back to this time last year. I certainly wasn't thinking Hero Kanu, Jerry, was going to have the kind of impact that he had. So whatever positions Texas adds the rest of the way. Again, may not be ranked highly in portal rankings or anything like that, but that doesn't exclude them from potentially becoming frontline players for you.
No, absolutely. I mean, Hero Kanu had a lot of upside. He was young to the game. Ohio State was high on him when he jumped in the portal. Then he came in and raced past any expectations Kenny Baker and the Texas defensive staff had for him. And that's, I think, is a great point, Jeff, because you're caught up on the unicorn guys, those type of guys, or they're very highly ranked guys in the portal. But somebody's going to surprise out of this portal class and make a much bigger impact than you think. And we'll see who that is.
It always happens, right, Rod? There's always one of these guys in these portal classes that ends up outperforming expectations. That's
what you need. I mean, it's hard to extract value from these acquisitions in college football, right? Because you don't keep the players long enough to be able to say, oh, you know what? We got this. We got this guy out of high school. He stayed for 3 years, turned himself into a first-round pick. That's great value that we got from this young man being in the program. You really can't guarantee you're going to get enough of those value transactions. And I think that's a great way to get that value is when you do have a player you bring in, maybe just for depth or maybe as a rotational piece. And turns out, I think Matthew Golden was that to me. I think they brought him in just to be a good piece. And he's like, the guy told himself he's a first-round pick. Like, that is tremendous value. And I think that's what you want. You want guys to outperform not only their expectations, but now actually the deal, because they are bringing them in on deals. You need them to outperform the deal you brought them on. That's, as a GM, that's kind of the last way that you, as a GM, achieve is ultimately who outperforms the contract. We're paying this guy this, but like you said, Jeff, he actually played like a starter or turned into an all-conference player, but we were just paying him as a rotational piece. That's your value right there. How many guys you got like that on the roster? That's the key. You ain't got to be Indiana, but you got to have a few of those.
Yeah. Just like we say with some of those late-round draft picks, Rodney, undrafted free agents in the NFL, it's found money at that point. So we'll see how it plays out for Texas. Again, Jonte Newman, the Texas A&M freshman offensive tackle, commits to Texas out of the transfer portal. Texas also getting ready to host Mason Barton tomorrow on a visit, and we'll see who else shows up. The dead period of the portal ends tonight. The activity picks up tomorrow, and we'll have as much information for you as we can here on the channel. Rod, Jerry, thank you guys for the knowledge and expertise as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, you can still take advantage of our Portal Madness special. First-time subscribers get your first month of access at ontexasfootball.com for just $1. We can only cover so much here on the channel, but every bit of information we get as we get it goes up at ontexasfootball.com. And again, first-time subscribers, take advantage right now before the special runs out. Your first month of access at ontexasfootball.com for just $1. If you have any questions that we didn't get to, coming up here in a few hours, CJ Vogel and Marcus Myers will be taking you through the Wednesday night live stream, and then it'll be Jerry, Bobby, and Blake tomorrow morning with coffee and football, and then our normal Thursday programming thereafter. Thanks, everybody, for participating, those who got questions in and those who just came to watch our midday transfer portal update. For Rod, for Jerry, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and until next time, hook 'em.